Yes, thank you. Such a decision, for example, on testing, pre-departure testing, would it be binding for all Schengen states, or is it something that they can do as they think it's the best for them? Thank you.
So, I mean, the measures that would be adopted potentially by the IPCR would be for member states to implement according to their competences. I would have to clarify for you, I'm sorry, on the Schengen member states what the situation would be. But, you know, the health, these measures are things which are generally, we coordinate the position and we make recommendations, and then it's for the member states to put them into practice.
Thank you. Additional questions on the same matter? Yes, Nawab.
Tim, just a clarification. What about those travelers who are coming from China via third countries to you? Does these measures apply to them also? Thank you.
Well, this is one of the details which still needs to be discussed. Of course, as you say, transit issues is something that we need to factor in. At this stage, I can't say exactly how this would turn out.
Mose, on the same subject.
Yes, thank you. Just in time for my follow-up question. Yesterday we discussed at some length, the issue about scientific advice from different sources, including from the ECDC, and you said you didn't want to preempt their opinion. As you know, they issued some kind of report yesterday. We talked about that. And it turns out, they told me at least yesterday, then when it comes to travel restrictions and similar, say, practical measures we've been discussing, they don't give advice on that. They wrote to me that's up to the member states to decide on, even though, as you said, they got the extended mandate. Do you have any comment on that? I mean, because then you have to ask yourself, I mean, from which sources do you get scientific advice on such issues? Or are they not purely scientific, but also include other considerations, for example? Thank you.
No, again, I can only repeat, and we will say this constantly to you. Our approach is very much a science-based one. Now, the ECDC is one of the bodies that we depend on, but the Health Security Committee, which met yesterday, is composed of representatives from national administrations, public health experts that are sharing with us their expertise, their experiences on the ground. So the measures that we are proposing are fully science-based. And as I said earlier, our objective is to be vigilant, to maintain the appropriate levels of surveillance, of testing, of identification, and that's the approach that we're taking.
Thank you very much, Tim. Stefan, you have an additional question on this matter.
Yeah, it's a sort of follow-up. I'm a bit confused, but because yesterday my impression was that you did not recommend pre-departure testing, and today you seem to recommend it in line with the majority of member states. So what happened since yesterday? Thank you.
And I think there is a misunderstanding there. We never said yesterday that we do not recommend pre-departure testing. We said that this was the subject of a discussion which took place yesterday in the Health Security Committee, which was convened yesterday and which gathered experts from all the member states, and the conclusion based on the evidence and the advice that was shared and put on the table during that meeting yesterday was that indeed a large majority of member states believe that it would be prudent and justifiable and important to introduce such testings at this point in time, which is now submitted to the discussion of the IPCR meeting taking place this afternoon. So this is where we stand. Yesterday, the key word of the day was that we didn't want to preempt the discussions of the Health Security Committee, which was gathering in the afternoon. Anything to add in?
No.
Lindbar, go ahead.
Just on the same subject, the Chinese Foreign Ministry yesterday said that they would take countermeasures following the reciprocity principle after there was some reporting about the fact that the EU was considering introducing these measures. Do you have any response to that?
Thank you. No, we don't have any response to the statements from the Chinese foreign ministry spokespeople. We take the measures that we believe are justified in line with the evolution of the situation in China. This is based on discussions among our experts and scientists, and this is subject to a decision now which is being discussed by our member states, and we'll keep it at that. Any other questions on the same matter? First, Maria, because you already had the floor today, Mose.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Maria, pour la Libre Belgique. Une première question, est-ce qu'il s'agirait de tests PCR? Est-ce que c'est bien de cela qu'on discute aujourd'hui, avant le départ? Ensuite, je voulais savoir en ce qui concerne les chiffres, est-ce que vous recevez des chiffres actualisés de la situation en Chine? Est-ce que les États membres disposent de ces chiffres? Parce que je n'ai pas l'impression que ces chiffres sont en tout cas rendus publics, mais je ne sais pas s'il y a des communications de la part des autorités chinoises à ce sujet envers vous. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Maria. Est-ce que tu as des éléments de réponse pour cela, Tim?
Oui, les détails sur le type de test, ça va être publié dans l'avis. C'est pas seulement les PCR, on prend en compte aussi les antigènes. Ça serait dans l'avis du comité sur la sécurité de santé. Et voyons quelles sont les mesures qui seront éventuellement adoptées par le IPCR plus tard dans la journée. L'autre question sur les données, pardon, j'ai pas capté la question.
Je voulais savoir si vous recevez des données actualisées sur le nombre de cas, le nombre de décès, sur la situation épidémiologique en Chine, parce que j'ai l'impression qu'elles ne sont plus publiées depuis plusieurs jours. Maintenant, c'est pas public, mais je ne sais pas si vous en recevez de manière bilatérale. Est-ce qu'on a une idée concrète en fait de la situation en Chine? Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour la question, Maria. Je ne sais pas si Tim a des éléments concrets de réponse, mais de manière plus générale, je peux te dire que notre agence ECDC est en contact avec son homologue chinois. C'est quelque chose que tu peux lire déjà dans les rapports que notre agence ECDC a publié hier, ainsi que, bien évidemment, en contact étroit avec l'Organisation mondiale de la santé, pour évidemment suivre les développements en Chine. La question des données est débattue. Nous avons même discuté hier ici en salle de presse. Et évidemment, la Commission n'est pas elle-même un centre de recherche sur les données scientifiques liées à la situation Covid, mais nous avons notre agence ECDC qui suit la situation avec ses homologues, comme j'ai dit, au niveau local en Chine et au niveau mondial l'OMS. Et nous voyons que ECDC ainsi que l'OMS, des experts pointent le fait qu'on n'a pas des données complètes et il y a une scarcity of data, reliable data, en ce qui concerne la situation épidémiologique sur place. Mais c'est tout ce que nous pouvons dire là-dessus à ces sujets. Est-ce que tu as d'autres éléments?
Non, j'allais dire la même chose. J'allais vous inviter à voir ce qu'ils ont publié hier, le CDC, qui est assez complet sur le type de données auxquelles ils ont accès.
Voilà. Merci beaucoup. Je vois des questions dans les chats maintenant. So please, in the chat, colleagues, only keep your hands up at this stage if you have questions on COVID and China. To stay with this subject for now, I believe that, yes, Jensen Solveig has a question about that. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I was just wondering, there's a mention of a vast majority of countries in favor of introducing these tests. Were any countries against it? And if so, is it possible to explain more or less the reasons why? Thank you.
Yeah, I think on this one, I mean, it's our general practice, as you know, not to kind of give a blow-by-blow account of these discussions with the member states. That's the nature of these meetings. There would be minutes that are published in the future. But as I say, the overwhelming majority of member states express themselves in favour. So that's really all I can say for now.
Thank you. I see two more hands up in the system. Raf, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the floor. I have a question on mechanics, and also we say that a large majority of nations want some kind of measures. In this case, does it also take unanimity to do so? Because we have seen single member states holding up decisions of the EU for reasons not directly linked to any of the issues at hand. And also, suppose decision X is taken today, what kind of legalistic hoops does it have to jump through before it becomes actual action on the ground? Do ambassadors have to approve it, member states, or can the Commission itself directly approve this? Thank you.
Thanks, Rev. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of expectations and voting requirements, I mean, the IPCR is advisory body within the Council. It's really best to address the Swedish presidency in terms of the decision-making process on that. But, you know, I think we see clear willingness among all member states to agree on a common EU position, and we saw that yesterday in the discussion with the public health specialists, and there was a very constructive conversation about finding the right balance, about finding the right approach and language that everybody could agree with and would be able to implement these measures domestically in the most appropriate way, because everybody has that full understanding that if you don't act together, you leave a loophole, you leave a gap in the system. So I think we can be fairly confident that member states will continue to operate in that spirit. As for how quickly these measures could potentially enter into force, again, that's a question of how the discussions go this afternoon, and I would not want to prejudge that and what the presidency would communicate. But as far as we're concerned, this is something where we need to agree very quickly and have measures that are enforced very quickly to deal with the situation.
Thank you. Are there any more questions on COVID? China, I think, Mose, you had a question on that. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks again. It's a very quick follow-up to the previous question about the reaction by the Foreign Ministry of China. I understand it's a quite sensitive diplomatic issue, but if I recall it correctly, I think also China imposed similar measures which the IPCR is considering now when it comes to targeted against countries in Europe during the previous rounds of the pandemic. Is that correct? I mean, did that happen also? So from that point of view, it would seem that we don't, EU doesn't, let's say, follow the same policy as China did before.
Yeah, Mostly, I mean, all I can say is that, you know, as the information that we have is that pre-departure testing is currently in place for passengers arriving in China. That's a requirement of the Chinese authorities. But I'm not here to kind of get into specific requirements that everybody else has in place. I mean, we've said what we have to say in terms of what we're being proposed, and Dana was clear that we're not going to react to comments.
Yep. Thank you, Tim. I see another hand up in the system. Annick, hoping that the question is about China and COVID. Go ahead.
If you see me, but do you hear me?
I can hear you, but I cannot see you. It would be good to put on your camera.
Doesn't work. How do I do this?
We need to be some training at the beginning of the year to go back into the habits. We still don't see you. I exceptionally accept that you ask your question without seeing you, because it's the very beginning of the year and we need to remember how to operate our tools. But as you know, from this year on, we will implement the rule that if you connect remotely, you will need to have your camera on. Now we see you.
Ah,
well,
okay.
Now you disappeared.
Okay.
Now you are there again.
Ok. Je vais poser ma question en français. C'est la même question que l'avant-dernière question. Donc j'entends que la décision qui va être prise aujourd'hui par l'IPCR doit être validée par les États membres. Mais concrètement, formellement, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? Qui doit valider quoi? À quel moment? Est-ce que ça va être automatique avec une signature, ou bien est-ce qu'il y aura une réunion des ministres de la Santé? Comment est-ce que cette validation va se passer exactement?
Merci. Pour toutes ces questions institutionnelles en général, comme les IPCR ou IPCR, c'est un groupe du Conseil, je vous invite vraiment à discuter cela avec les conseils pour qu'ils puissent vous dire quels sont les prochains pas qu'ils ont envisagés en termes des calendriers et des séquences. Mais en général, ça dépend aussi beaucoup de ce que le Coreper, de ce que les IPCR décident et de quoi ils délibèrent. Parfois, il y a des instances où on échange juste de l'information. Les IPCR, c'est un groupe complexe qui est activé en période de crise et qui travaille en plusieurs modes. Parfois, c'est l'échange d'informations pour aboutir après à une communication consistante envers les États et les citoyens. Parfois, il s'agit de prendre des décisions plus opérationnelles. En quel cas, ça passe aussi par d'autres instances, par exemple par le Coreper. Mais tout cela, je vous invite vraiment à discuter avec nos collègues de l'autre côté de la rue du Conseil, parce que il s'agit ici d'un groupe de travail du Conseil. Je vois encore une main qui est levée, et c'est la main de Svetlana. Hoping or understanding that this is a question still about COVID and China. Go ahead, Svetlana. We don't seem to manage to get Svetlana. Yes.
Ok. En fait, j'ai une question sur les pays dans le processus de l'élargissement, dans le cadre de ce qu'on discute ici. Est-ce qu'il va y avoir des mesures pour ces pays-là? Parce que j'imagine là-bas aussi, il y a des touristes qui viennent de Chine, des voyageurs, etc. Est-ce qu'il va y avoir des mesures pour les pays du processus de l'élargissement, puisque nous savons que ces pays-là voyagent sans visa, et nous savons aussi qu'il n'y a plus aucune mesure qui est en place. Merci.
Merci. Tim, est-ce que tu as des éléments spécifiques sur cela?
Non, pas des éléments spécifiques, juste pour dire qu'effectivement, il faut qu'on voit cet après-midi quels seront les accords sur les passagers en transit, par exemple, et comment on fait pour coordonner avec des pays de transit éventuellement pour les passagers. Mais j'ai rien de spécifique sur les pays candidats pour l'élargissement.
Et s'il y aura d'autres éléments, nous allons revenir vers toi. Bien évidemment, Svetlana, il y a un dialogue très fluide avec les pays de l'élargissement qui sont en règle générale nos voisins. Et souvent, les conditions épidémiologiques ou parfois les conditions épidémiologiques sont similaires, mais il n'y a pas une automaticité générale en ce qui concerne les mesures dont nous parlons. Mais évidemment, les cas échéants, si nécessaire, et en fonction de l'évolution de la situation, nous allons garder les contacts avec ces pays et voir si d'autres mesures ou d'autres discussions seraient nécessaires. Je vois une autre main levée, celle de Shandor. Go ahead. I see that you are there, Shandor, but we cannot see you and we cannot hear you. And now we lost you. So I will then open the floor to other questions that you may have for us today, and we may get back to Shandor at a later stage. Yes, and I see a few hands up. First of all, I will invite you to ask questions for Tim, if you have any others. As you know, he covers energy. So if you have questions for him and you have your hand up, I will give you the floor As a priority, I believe that Stefano has a question for him, right? Yes, it's on energy. Go ahead, Stefano.
Yes, thank you very much for the floor. I have a question on the electricity market design reform, and I wanted to know if the consultation document that was expected by mid-December when will it be published, and if you also want to have a discussion on this with the energy ministers after the discussion you had in December. And then another question about gas. I would like to understand how you consider the current status of the gas storage in Europe, and what do you think will be the new challenges that might come in the next few months? Because as you have seen, like, we have very high temperatures. So what's the outlook from the Commission perspective on the months to come, and where will be where the problem will come from? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stefano. Yeah, on the reform of the electricity market design. So, as you know, this is something which we have committed to do as quickly as we can. The Commissioner has said that we will be putting a legislative proposal on the table by the end of March this year, and a public consultation will be part of our process of preparing that. We'll be launching the public consultation very soon. I don't have a specific date for you, but of course we will get that out as quickly as we can and allow sufficient time for stakeholders to reply, and of course for us to assess those replies and to take them into account. As far as the energy ministers are concerned, as you rightly say, there was a first discussion between the Commissioner and the ministers on this issue at the last Energy Council of the year at the end of December. I don't know if there would be an issue that is put on the table again for another Energy Council ahead of our proposal. That is an issue which is in the hands of the Swedish presidency. But of course, you can trust that we are in regular contact at all levels, political and technical, with the member states as we prepare a proposal like this, as it is such an important one. And so consultations will take place in any case. Now, on your question about gas storage, I don't have the precise figure in front of me, but last time I checked, when I got back to the office, we were at around 83% of gas capacity filling, which is, it's a fairly good position to be in at this time of the year. You will recall that our target was to reach 80% by 1st of November to see us through this winter. We exceeded that target, and as you say, due to the mild weather that we've experienced, there has been lower demand than in previous years, and those stocks have remained at a high level. I think that's had a calming effect on the market and reduced volatility and driven down prices. That's, of course, a reflection on a wide range of measures that we took last year. So putting in place this storage obligation is one of the ways that we gave ourselves a security blanket for this winter, but we also adopted the market correction mechanism. As you know, we've invested a lot of time and energy in diversifying our energy supplies. We've seen record levels of LNG deliveries, which are one of the main replacements that we've found for the Russian gas, which we are no longer importing. In terms of preparing for next winter, we know as well that this is going to be a challenge. We've set ourselves a target of jointly purchasing gas for the first time, and we've now agreed the legal basis on that. Beyond that, the more we can invest in energy efficiency and reducing energy use, and the more that we can give a boost to renewables, the better we will be placed in terms of reducing our dependence on gas, which is very important for energy prices, energy security this year, but of course is important, as you know, more broadly for our climate objectives. So that's the situation where we are in now. We have, I would say, a healthy level of gas storage for the start of this year, but we are by no means complacent. We know that this year will continue to be challenging, and there are a lot of things that we need to do to implement what was agreed last year, and to push forward as well with those longer-term reforms that are necessary on renewable energy, on energy efficiency, whereas, there are proposals on the table of the legislators which we would like to see them adopting as quickly as possible.
Indeed, and just one small element of detail to add, since your question was about the level of gas storage, Stefano, as Tim said, the latest data that we had our eyes on was 83, almost 84%. We should get fresh data imminently, but just for you to put things in perspective, this was 13% more than the average on the same day of the year in December during the reference years 2016-2018. That's to say that the situation regarding gas storage is better, is more comfortable for us than it was in average over the reference years 2016-2018. Any other questions on energy for Tim? Stefano, you have your hand up for a follow-up. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, very quickly. If I remember correctly, in November, a high official of the Commission said to the Parliament that a consultation document might be expected more or less around mid-December, and that won't be enough time for a full-fledged impact assessment. So since now we are at the beginning of January, I'm wondering if you think that there will be time for a complete impact assessment on the electricity market reform, and if so, what's the timeline? How do you expect? When do you expect to present this consultation document and complete the impact assessment? And voila. But the main question is, will there be enough time to do it now? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stefano. I think one thing that we've proved in the last 12 months is that we can work at record speeds on tackling the energy crisis. We have dealt with condensed timelines, but we have made the efforts to consult with all necessary parties as we prepare the various emergency measures that we've put in place. Now, this is a more longer-term reform, of course, and needs more careful reflection. That's why it also comes with a public consultation. We will, of course, be assessing the impact of any measures that we published. There'll be a very detailed staff working document which will accompany the proposal, and I think you will see clearly reflected that we've done our homework on that front.
Indeed, we always assess the impact of our proposals in various ways, whether through a fully fledged impact assessments or other ways, but we always, before putting a proposal on the table, study the impact that it would have. I believe that David has a question for Tim as well. Go ahead.
Actually. Thanks very much for your answer on the delegated act on renewable hydrogen, RFNBOs. There was one thing that I wanted that wasn't in that answer was a date, any deadline, when is this going to come? Because it's already over a year late according to the Renewables Directive. And then the second question is, I'm not sure if it's for you or for Dan, but it also concerns energy. My colleagues are seeing lots of reports, ships off the coast of Greece in the Laconian Gulf, which is in Greek territorial waters, and they're performing ship-to-ship transfers of Russian crude. And I was wondering, is that definitely, if it's in Greek territorial waters, is that an affair for the Greek government to ensure application of the sanctions? Or is that something the EU, the Commission, is looking into as well? Thanks.
Thank you for your questions. On the first one, Tim.
Yeah, on the first one, David, all I can say is that we're in the process of finalising the delegated acts, and we are hoping to do that as soon as possible. I can't put a precise date on that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we normally refrain from giving precise dates because sometimes, we are just ready when we are ready, when we have completed our analysis and all pieces have fallen into place. We prefer to get it right before putting it on the table. As regards the second question, I think it would be more for Dan, but Dan is signaling me that he's checking for you, and he will get back to you once he has a meaningful answer. Any other questions for Tim on energy-related matters? I don't see that, so thank you, Tim. I can now open the floor to other type of questions that you may have for us today. And indeed, there are some. First of all, Hans-Uwe, you've been waiting for a long time. Thank you for being patient, and now it's your turn.
It's a pleasure to be patient for getting the floor. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year from my side again. Yes, I know yesterday we congratulated for the next year, for 2023. However, my question is concerning EU and NATO. There was a joint declaration up in the air. It was supposed to be ready by December. What is the status? That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That would be a question that would normally be for Peter, who is connecting from home. Peter.
Hello, good afternoon, and Happy New Year also from my side. Well, on this question, it's not a secret that in the current strategic context, our cooperation, the European Union's cooperation with the NATO, is more important and relevant than ever. We see it on practical examples already on the ground, the latest one being in north of Kosovo between the Christmas and New Year's holiday, when the EU and NATO coordinated very closely on the ground. We are coordinating very closely and working together very closely in the context of Russia's illegal aggression against Ukraine. So, of course, we deem it important that the signature of this new joint declaration takes place as soon as possible. But I don't have a date for you at this stage.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any questions for Peter at this stage on foreign affairs matters? I see that Rebecca's question is not on this, but perhaps Philippe. Philippe, go ahead.
Oui, une question et bonne année. Une question à Peter au sujet de la visite de M. Borrell au Maroc. On n'a toujours pas d'informations, on a juste des informations a priori de presse. Donc je voulais savoir un petit peu pourquoi, comment, est-ce qu'il y est, pour quand, combien de temps, etc. Merci.
Merci Philippe. Entre-temps, nous avons publié déjà l'information et tous les détails sur la visite. La visite commence demain et va continuer lendemain aussi. Et nous avons publié tous les détails sur les partenaires et sur les sujets que le haut représentant va discuter à Rabat et aussi à Fès. C'est le Daily News d'aujourd'hui et aussi l'annoncement dans le site d'Internet des services européens d'action extérieure.
Merci beaucoup, Peter. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres questions? Affaires étrangères pour Peter. Nawab.
Yes, thank you. Peter, I would like to ask you a reaction to the current situation in Jerusalem after the visit of an Israeli security minister, I think, to the Al-Aqsa compound yesterday. Thank you.
Peter?
Thank you, Nawab. And indeed, we are following very closely not only what is going on the ground, but also the first steps of the new Israeli government, with which we are looking forward to cooperate based on our shared values. And of course, we will be adjusting this cooperation and judging this new government based on its actions. And in this context, I would like to recall the importance of preserving the status quo of the holy sites. And we are concerned as the European Union by the actions that go against it. We have seen over the past weeks already that there is a dangerous increase of tensions and also casualties, and it is very important for everyone to de-escalate, not to contribute to further escalation. So de-escalation is the word of the day. De-escalation is what is needed, and what is also needed is to avoid any actions and provocations that fuel these tensions and contribute to increasing these tensions. And we are calling, as the European Union, on all actors to exercise and to show restraint in order to prevent such escalation, such further escalation.
Thank you, Peter. Any other foreign affairs questions for him? I see a few hands up, but I know that Rebecca's is not about foreign affairs, so I will then give the floor to Maria.
visit again of High Representative. We are in the middle of a scandal, so-called Qatar Gate, but it seems that Morocco is also involved. And my question is if the High Representative will mention anything on that to the authorities of Morocco, according to the allegation of Belgian authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you. And as we said also in the case of the allegations related to one country in the Gulf regarding the corruption affair in the European Parliament, we said this is very serious. It needs to be investigated. The investigation is ongoing. It's in the hands of the Belgian authorities. We, as the biggest defenders and advocates of the rule of law and the independence of the justice, are putting our full trust into the work of the Belgian investigators. And once we have the results of the investigation, the verdicts and the necessary proofs, then we will act accordingly. This is what we said all along in the relation to the allegations concerning one country in the Gulf. And then when the allegations appeared in the media regarding Morocco, we said the same. I mean, if there are allegations, they need to be investigated. European Parliament declared complete preparedness to cooperate with these. It's in the hands of the judiciary in Belgium. We have full trust, and we will wait for the results, confirmations, verdicts, proofs, and based on that we will be acting. At this point, one day ahead of the visit of the High Representative to Morocco, I'm not going to preempt all the discussion points he will raise with his partners, but we are happy always to discuss the content of the exchanges after they take place with the partners.
Thank you, Peter. And Maria has a follow-up question. We'll take that first.
I just want to ask if it is appropriate for the High Representative to visit now Morocco before the proof or not of the allegations of the Belgian authorities. Thank you.
Well, it is appropriate for High Representative to meet with his counterparts from all around the world. We have a number of topics on our agenda with the third countries. Morocco is a very important partner country. It's our neighbor. It's a southern neighbor. We have a new partnership with Morocco. We want to advance it and cooperate on areas of mutual interest, but also raise issues of concern on our side, on their side, and to exchange. This is a normal, integral part of the job of the High Representative. Let's not forget. There are allegations at this point. There is no proof. There is no concluded investigation. No one has officially said from the judicial point of view that Morocco as a country is guilty and Morocco should be avoided in international contact. In this spirit, exactly, High Representative met with the Foreign Minister of Qatar as well shortly before Christmas when he was in Jordan to discuss issues where we need to work together and, of course, issues where we have some concerns. And we are always very transparent about this. We are announcing these visits, these meetings, and then we are also very happy to provide information from these meetings when they take place. But again, we have a number of issues we need to discuss with the partners, and there are allegations. If they are concerning one country, we will be making conclusions and adjusting our actions based on the results of an investigation, independent investigation. We cannot preempt or prejudge something just based on allegations. So in this spirit, the High Representative continues his engagement with partners from third countries, regardless of the allegations out there, because engagement is the only way to discuss issues. If the countries are implicated, we can raise it with the partners and find ways to move forward. But as I said, in this case, the visit to Morocco has been planned for some time. There are issues we need to discuss. And once there will be an investigation concluded with concrete proofs and results that will require an action from the side of the European Union regarding one country in the Gulf or regarding Morocco or anyone else, then there will be the right time to make the decisions. But the time is not now.
Peter, I see one more hand up in the system, and that is David's.
Thank you very much, Dana. Peter, I would like to know if you have an update on the appointment of the special envoy for the Gulf, and if the High Rep thinks that it is appropriate to go ahead with the actual candidates. One of them is Avramopoulos. We have discussed his position in the so-called Qatar Gate before the end of last year. Another one is former foreign minister of Italy, and there are a lot of Italians maps involved indirectly in this case. So I'm wondering if the procedure is going on and will go on. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Just for the matter of being factual, there are more candidates than just two, so that's one thing. The second thing is, yes, the procedure is still ongoing, and there is no update I could share with you now, but I can only repeat what we have been saying all along, like with all the nominations for any post of the EU Special Representative. When this one is concluded in terms of the necessary procedures between the High Representative and the Council, we will make an appropriate announcement.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any other questions for Peter today? I don't see that. Are there any other questions for us today? Yes, Rebecca had her hand up for a long time. I don't see her hand. Well, yes, there she is. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Hi, Happy New Year. My question is on industrial policy, and specifically, President Emmanuel Macron yesterday said that he wanted to pursue a Made in Europe industrial strategy. And we also know that the EU Council asked the Commission to present an industrial plan in early 2023. So my question is, what would a Made in Europe strategy look like? And is this the kind of strategy that the Commission wants to pursue? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question, Rebecca. That would be for Johannes, who will connect remotely. Just to say that we have been making clear in a number of occasions how we see the way forward to strengthen the competitiveness of Europe's industry. Indeed, we had a good discussion at the latest European Council in December, and we are following up on that. Johannes, I hope that in the meantime you could make your camera and mic work.
Yes, I hope I did. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
All good. Go ahead.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you, Rebecca, for the question. Yes, I mean, usually we do not comment directly on specific comments, but let me first recall that already in her latest State of the Union address in September last year, our President Ursula von der Leyen called for measures to, and I quote, make sure that the future of industry is made in Europe, unquote. And as Dan already said, we can reiterate the President's 4 points plan on competitiveness that she announced in December in the European Parliament. First, adjust our rules to facilitate national public investments in the green transition. Second, reassess the need of further European public investment in the green transition. Third, work with the United States to address some of the most concerning aspects of the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. And fourth, we have to further accelerate our transition to green energy. And finally, as Dana has already mentioned, in the latest European Council conclusions, EU member states invited the Commission to conduct an analysis and to make proposals by the end of January with a view to mobilizing all relevant national and European tools, as well as to improving framework conditions for investment, including through streamlined administrative procedures. And we are now working on this. On the follow-up to these conclusions, as well as on the 4-point plan, and we will bring first elements forward still this month in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Johannes. Are there any more questions for Johannes? I don't see that, so thank you. And now Naomi, also connected remotely.
Hi, Dana. Happy New Year. Thanks very much for taking my question. It's just a quick clarification on an information point. Apologies for returning to an earlier topic, but I'm just trying to understand when it comes to putting in place new requirements for arrivals regarding COVID. Is Hong Kong and China, is that considered one epidemiological unit? As in, if the requirement for testing is placed on China, would the EU recommendation also cover Hong Kong as well? That's what I'm trying to understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do not think that Tim has any elements at this stage as to the exact geographic delineation. But you would hear perhaps more details following the discussions at the IPCR this afternoon. Are there any more questions for us today? I don't see that. So thank you so much and see you tomorrow.